Right, it's time to begin our session. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bart. Welcome to Explain Everything. On this session, I'm together with Regan Hackett here. Hey, Regan.
Hello, Bart.
Great to hear you. And today, we're going to speak about how to enhance our online meetings with visuals using whiteboard solution such as Explain Everything. Regan, if you could join me in explaining why visuals, how to enhance conversation that usually in business setting takes place on different conferencing solutions. I guess we're going to cover that, and we're going to focus on some possible scenarios where you can not only discuss things by, verbal communication, textual communication, but also put visuals to work. Why don't we do that, Regan?
Yeah, absolutely, Bart. So I bet you everyone on this webinar is already sold on the why you need to be more visual in meetings and why it's so much more effective to draw on whiteboard. So we want to focus today on is really on the how. Is how do you do that? And how do you do that from anywhere, any device, in the virtual workplace, which we're all in now. We all work remotely or in different offices. So how can you provide the best visual interactive experience at a distance? Please ask some questions. We'll show you some of the best practices we've employed and explain everything. And also I do as a virtual CIO, focusing on cybersecurity. When it comes to complex solutions, you got to be able to whiteboard it out. So hopefully this will be interactive. Be looking for your questions in the chat. If you're watching this on replay, you can tweet us at Explain Everything or ask us any questions on LinkedIn on how we can help you have better online meetings by using a digital whiteboard. So Bart, where would you like to start?
We're supported just a few housekeeping items. We're supported here by Kuba that is going to take your questions. So if you put them to the chat window, we're going to respond to them. This session is provided to you live. So we'll respond to any question and we will not leave anything behind. Also, for those of you that are already familiar with Explain Everything, you know that those sessions are collaborative. So this session as well allows you to join in if you like. So currently in the top right corner, you see the code just in here that you can use to connect to the session if you want to pan around the canvas and watch the content as we'll be providing our explanations. So we can do this by using this code within Explain Everything app on your Chrome device or your iPad, or you can also access the session using web browser. If you go to this address, and here's the code. So this address in your browser will allow you to join this session. And as you'll see here, we have quite a bit of content to share. So as we're going step by step, you can browse what we have here using your own pace. So Regan, you mentioned that most of us already sold on why using visuals. Maybe just to start on that point, why visuals, let's focus on a few facts and few information that you might find useful in thinking about visual storytelling in a remote setting. Well, the time is great because we know that most of meetings starts to be held in a virtual space where people joining on different communicators usually screen share. Is that correct, Regan? Is that the typical way of working together?
Yeah, it sure is, Bart. Yeah, it sure is. Nowadays, with basically the proliferation, I'm going to zoom in here and show you some of the core tools you're already probably familiar with. So Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Zoom have really taken over, whether it's in education or business. These are the online meeting platforms that are really powering, virtual work. And so now it's figuring out, now that most of the meetings are happening in these domains, how do we become more effective? And I think the best way, what we do here, Explain Everything, is we like to show and not tell. And so, for example, here, I'll start off, since we're on a virtual meeting right now with Zoom, talking about how important cybersecurity is. So if I had a meeting about cybersecurity, that's my business here as a virtual CIO, I could talk to you all day long about how important it is to have strong passwords, all the things you need to set up and deploy. But if it'd be a lot more effective if I could just show you right away what I was talking about. And I think it comes down to being able to quickly on the fly bring up a document and guide someone's attention through it. We've all been familiar with PowerPoint for the past couple decades, and then there were some tools that came out like Prezi that provided a little more engagement and moving around. But what I found with Explain Everything, why it's so powerful, is my ability to just zoom in on a key point and say, you know what, for your cybersecurity strategy, we're going to focus on your identity strategy, passwords, and just be able to focus directly on, hey, we can block most of your attempts by focusing on multi-factor authentication. So much more powerful for me to be able to in sync talk about it, draw, and then most importantly, ask people to draw and interact with it. So just the retention will go up, the engagement. We're always worried about on the other side of these virtual calls, are people really engaged, paying attention, remembering? If someone's whiteboarding with you or following along, they're going to remember and they're going to have a great experience. And it's going to be a positive experience for you. So the key thing is just be able to show and not just tell in these virtual calls. And that's why it's so important. And I think we'll do that today by going over how you actually can use these online meeting platforms and have a better online meeting experience by whiteboarding.
That's a great way to kick off our conversation here. Few things just for you to understand what happened when Reagan was explaining his way of working. So as you notice, he added to the canvas of the whiteboard that we're using together this document here. So it was not a staged presentation. Reagan actually had something on his device. You're using iPad now or computer, Reagan?
Yep, I'm using my iPad currently, yeah. So I was just able to grab a file just in my OneDrive and drag and drop it right into the screen as it made sense.
Exactly. So this is something that is possible to do in real life in order to broadcast to others. Now, you watch us as we go on Zoom platform, as this is one of the meeting platforms that are often used. We use it for our webinar here just to broadcast to many recipients what we do on Explain Everything Canvas here. But if you look at top right corner, we have few people connected. There's two of me.
Awesome.
There's, two explainers. Those are new users to Explain Everything, not registered, that used browser to connect to the canvas. I'm using 2 seats. So this is the list of those that are connected that can use the canvas as Reagan did when he added his document to explain his type of work. So getting back to why visuals, we're speaking here about the way to enhance your online conversation with visuals, because in the reality, there are topics that you might want to cover, having ability just to draw. In fact, drawing is additional type of reasoning, as some like to call it. There are articles that speak of this distinct way of reasonings by drawing pictures. So for example, if I have a concept that I want to explain to you, that visuals are actually the next layer that improves conversation between human beings, I might want to use a drawing. And this is something I'm going to do now just to demonstrate my thinking. So this is the simplest way you can use visuals to enhance conversation. You hear me speaking, that's audio mode of communicating. I can also type, that would be textual. You see my video, that's a video feed, but visual is something that can enhance it. So let's say if we think about the timeline when those possibilities appeared, we can think about some very important dates like 1876. That was the first time when Graham Bell was able to make a long distance call using his telephone. So that's the moment when this mode of communication, here we have modes, kicked off. Now, then, later, in 1973, that was the moment where first textual communication was possible because of network connectivity. So that was the first chat. So that's textual. So that was the second layer. The third layer kicked off in 1980, if I remember correctly. That's the video feed, because network bandwidth grew quickly. Video chats were possible. And we're currently in 21st century. So around that time, what was possible was ability to draw together. That is collaborative whiteboarding for you. So what we're using is a mobile whiteboard, explain everything, but I'll just state here, whiteboarding. So as you see here, for me, those are 4 distinct layers where communication can happen. And some say, okay, do we need visuals actually? Well, for me, it was easy to put to explain this concept using simple drawing. But as Regan did, you might want to explain something that is out there in the document or on the slide that brought the canvas, allows you to explain things visually. Does that make sense, Regan?
Sorry, broke up there, Bart. What was the question?
Does that make sense for you? I mean, those layers in communication, how does it resonate with you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it all starts with audio, and because we're in person, we're talking. But I think the key thing is when it comes down to, you know, making this be a virtual experience at a distance, you know, when we're in person, there's so much body language that's transferred, our nonverbal communication, that again gets lost, you know, whether it was through the mail or telephone calls. But now with video, we can usually see the person, but now it's also just how we express and move the ideas around. So that's why whiteboarding is more of the movement, by being able to convey your message with the intensity that you would maybe in person. That's what's so exciting to me, is the virtual whiteboarding and try to create that in the room experience virtually. We all know virtual reality is coming down the road, but still I think there's a lot we can do to, now that we have almost every single meeting is happening virtually, how can we add that personal engagement and communicate more effectively like we would in the room without, you know, also spending too much time getting set up. So that's the key thing too, is being able to have a routine where on your iPad or computer, you can just quickly start sharing or drawing. And I think that's where still probably the digital whiteboards are going to be a key mode for the next 10 years to, you know, modality that you want to get good at in these virtual meeting rooms, because virtual reality still might have a barrier of entry, even if it's just the amount of time to set up. Not every one of your virtual meetings will be VR, where I think every one of your virtual meetings could benefit from a digital whiteboard drawing experience.
Precisely. So just to wrap up on why visuals, I wanted to show you this picture. When speaking of modalities, we know that form of presentation is important. And we have great tools for this verbal communication and video feeds. We have great textual communication tools such as Slack, Team One, Discord. So currently we're speaking here about enhancing what you can do with those tools and textual communicators with visuals. And that's explain everything for you. So without further ado, let's cover the topic how to enhance your online conversation using visuals as we state here. And for that, we have 3 scenarios to cover. And we'll try to take it step by step, showing you from the very, starting off from the very basic one, where you actually just broadcast what is on the canvas of your whiteboard to the audience out there. As I do it now using my iPad here, I broadcast the screen of my iPad to you through Zoom. So that's the scenario where you have your device equipped with Explain Everything whiteboard, and this device is a participant of the Zoom session that happens, as I just showed here, in the cloud. So that's the Zoom session. That could be a Skype call or WebEx. And you're actually using this device for this benefit that you can input using your fingers. You can use pen or stylus if it's a Chrome device, in order to draw, in order to take whatever you need to explain by motion or by drawing or with documents to the canvas to be more visual and illustrate your thinking. Is that the way you use it, Reagan, most of the time?
Yeah, it definitely is. So yeah, I kind of use a mix of both. So I have my iPad with me at all times. If I need to jump on a quick meeting, I'll even do it on my phone. The newer iPhones, the larger screens, I can whiteboard with my finger quite well. But when I'm at the benefit of my home office, I love to be able to use my laptop screen, because as the webcam, I can look right in everyone's their virtual webcam, their faces. They can see mine, and I have my tablet as like my digital piece of paper that I'm whiteboarding with. So it's really a mix of both nowadays, and it's great that Explain Everything works on any device now, whether it's the laptop or the mobile phones or tablets.
Okay, great. So that's actually the scenario number 3. So let's first show how to go through scenario number 1, so you know how to connect your tablet to the ongoing session on Zoom, WebEx, or any other conferencing solution. And then we can cover your setup that is a bit more sophisticated, I presume. So, so let's show how to connect your Explain Everything to Zoom session, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. So I have some screenshots here I'll take you to.
Okay.
So if people want to follow, what you want to do in the top right-hand corner, so we have 2 sharing options. So once you're in a project already, so you've already entered in a project or a template, you have the ability to share the 2 different options. So one is the invite, and that's what brings it to the cloud, moves it to the cloud and gives you a code. But what you're seeing right here that I'm going to circle in red, the little arrow popping out of the box, this gives you a couple of different options. So one is to export it, your screen as a picture, PDF, image. So it's just kind of your asynchronous sharing. This is the video link, which is nice. But what we're talking about right now is the broadcasting.
Right.
The ability to just like Bart's doing right now, to take your screen and show it up on any of these other meeting platforms. Just hit the broadcast on your iPad, and then you're going to be presented with these options. Okay, now you already need to have these apps downloaded on your tablet. So for example, if I didn't have WebEx or Join Me on my iPad, they wouldn't show up. So for example, if you're just using Microsoft Teams, that might be the only thing showing up. Now you still need to start the meeting in Microsoft Teams, but assuming that you've already started the meeting and you hit broadcast, then it would just share your screen through that meeting. So the first thing to do is just really to start your meeting on your meeting platform on your iPad, and then go into Explain Everything, hit broadcast, and then select that meeting platform. And then usually it'll direct you back to the meeting platform, Microsoft Teams in this example, and you'll just hit approve to say, yep, I want everyone to be able to see my screen.
So the first
let's see if we have any questions, since we went through that quickly here. I don't know if anyone in the group is chatting, Kuba, that would let us anything we need to cover here, but this is very powerful. The minute you start doing this on your mobile phone or your tablet, you'll just start seeing the benefit of being able to have more engaging meetings, and people will just start opening up more and more. I would say the 2 things I've noticed is when you have real-time caption language translation in some of these tools, that opens up the conversation, but nothing as much as just whiteboarding and being able to whiteboard and talk just on the go really increases the engagement.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So just to summarize, you start the meeting first on your conferencing solution, then you connect to it from your iPad, having the software on your iPad, and then you broadcast from Explain Everything in order to show your screen to the ongoing session. Is that correct?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, great. That's one. There's one information needed for those that use Google devices on Chrome and on Android. On Android, there's a different way of sharing your screen. So Explain Everything works the same, But in order to share your screen, you have to start screen sharing from within, let's say, Zoom if you're using Zoom, or WebEx if you're using WebEx. So there's a button to do that. As you will find no option here in this export. We're going to implement it soon. The broadcast works the same way. It's just you have to start it from your conferencing solution. So that's actually the first way to broadcast. You mentioned about this option to invite participants. So that's something actually that is option number 2 here. So it's an option where you can broadcast together with others and share your screen to the session as you go. So this is a combination of us. Let's say, if I want to draw it here. So this is a situation where we have 2 iPads connected within this engagement space. Right, that would be the engagement space. And we're collaborating within Explain Everything on one canvas. And one of those iPads is broadcasting screen to the session. So that's what actually we're doing now. I'm here, I'm one of the participants, and I broadcast screen of my iPad to the session. However, Regan is also connected to the session. Here's another participant of the Zoom session here. However, he's using his iPad in order to access this engagement space to work together with me. That would be scenario number 2 that we're actually doing currently. Is that correct, Regan?
Yep, that's correct.
And as you see here, again, in top right corner, we're not the only ones on this session. There are actually 4 participants, so welcome Oliver and welcome Ali. If you'd like to add to the canvas of the session, please go ahead so other participants can see that you can work real time with us having the same set of tools. Now, Regan, you mentioned about a scenario where you broadcast from your desktop. So let me cover quickly how it looks like by first stopping sharing of my iPad. And I want to share for a moment my computer screen. So just to show you the setup here. Okay, now you should see screen of my computer. And on this screen, as you see, I have 2 windows. On the right side, you have a view on my iPad that is connected directly to the computer. And on the left side, you see the same canvas on Explain Everything in a browser. This is the third option that you have. You might want to use your tablet for visuals and for hand input for your stylus or pen, and broadcast your canvas through the computer. Oh, sorry for that. And broadcast your canvas to the computer. Now, this is a situation where in the browser, I have explained everything that is connected to the same session. So yeah, I don't actually have to connect my iPad to the computer. I actually need to use browser to engage within a session. Is that the way that you connect when you're broadcasting from a computer, Regan?
Yeah, yes it is. So yeah, I usually always have a couple tabs open on my browser. So it works Chrome the best, but there's Microsoft Edge. Now that runs Chromium, Google Chrome. I have a couple tabs open to my Explain Everything account. Because typically sometimes when you're sharing your screen, you're also sharing your desktop because maybe your company website or your other applications or there's other web apps you want to share. So this allows you to go back and forth between a whiteboard and then maybe a PowerPoint presentation you have or another website that you want to show.
So that's actually the situation I have here. I'm sharing my desktop and I could close this window, open slides on the right, and still have access to the canvas of Explain Everything here. So when I'm using my pen in order to draw, anything I do here on a canvas will be reflected in real time and displayed in the browser window. The good thing about using tablet, though, is that you have all the palm rejection functionality. So I can lay my hand, use the stylus or pen to provide input. And this is not something that is usually, the computers are usually equipped with. So if you have a computer with, a mouse and pointer, you won't be able to draw uh, as you would on a piece of paper. So think about your tablet as a digital napkin that shares its screen to the browser window that you can then broadcast to any conferencing solution that you're using. Is that a good way to think about this, Reagan?
Yeah. I think the key thing is just trying to, basically you're trying to upgrade your existing workflow. You don't want to kind of restart. So if you're already used to sharing your screen in meetings, just now start going to whiteboard.explainthing.com, pulling up your whiteboards that are on your tablet. And again, I still like to draw on my tablet just because it's a better experience. I don't have a touchscreen PC, but I have some friends that use Surface, and they'll just use their tablet, the web app altogether. But again, it's just that benefit of being able to write on a flat surface and then be able to look straight ahead at your desktop sometimes is important because you need to keep eye contact or use your video.
Great. Could you show us? I'll share my iPad full screen now so you can better see. Could you show us your setup, the way you work with Explain Everything in a business setting?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to talk about a business setting. So I like to take advantage of the I like to call the new way of work or the future of work here. So this is typically my setup when I'm outside at the beach. So you can see I have my laptop here. Okay, and then this is my iPad.
Oh, great.
Okay, so yeah, again, I have the webcam. They can look at me and take advantage of yeah, kind of like the rub end that I'm working at the beach here, be able to play video, kind of show everything that's going on. But I think the key thing here is the ability to just share your screen, and then I can do whatever I want on my iPad. And again, I think you already showed that, Bart, on your site here, but really the setup here, if we kind of look here at some pictures, is you have Explain Everything opened on your tablet. You go to explaineverything.com on your PC. You share your screen just like you would with your regular meeting software. But again, since you're at the Explain Everything website, everything that you're drawing on your iPad will show up because you have that project code because you've invited yourself or others. So that's actually what I'm doing right now. So all the moving and drawing is happening on my tablet right here on my iPad. But again, I still have a browser open up on my laptop. So if I need to share my screen, you could see my desktop browser. I think I have a video of that here too that I can show you. I know Bart did a good job of kind of walking us all through that, but I'll just zoom in here so you can kind of see this setup here. So
Okay.
this is an example of my desktop. Oops, it zoomed out. So this is explaineverything.com. I'm on the browser. You can actually add it in the top right-hand corner. You can add it as an app now that will show up right on your screen. So you see here, just Explain Everything popped up on my MacBook here. Works on Windows as well. The key thing is just having a Chrome browser. Now that Microsoft Edge works on Chrome, it's based off Chromium now. The Explain Everything app works great. But yeah, just being able to switch back and forth and having your whiteboard and then just being able to join that same project. Since it's the same account I'm logged in, it just shows up in my recent projects. But I also have the ability where I could, again, just give someone the code and they could join very easily. So I think that's where it just starts, is just being able to start practicing sharing your screen, whether it's using your tablet plus your laptop, or if you want to just do tablet only. I know someone asked for instructions in the chat, so I kind of wrote this out very quickly here, just in time. That, again, if you just want to share from your tablet, you'll just open up your online meetings app on your iPad and start that meeting. Once that meeting started, just move over to Explain Everything, start a project. And then the third thing you're going to do is just go to that broadcast option, select broadcast, and select your meeting option. So yeah, you really have two options, the broadcast, or again, with the invite button, you can invite others or one of your other devices to collaborate real time. So I'll pause for questions.
So there are a few questions. There's a question from Leonard. If someone doesn't have Microsoft Office on their computer, can they see a slideshow if the other person shares the information like from PowerPoint? So there's a difference in screen sharing because if you share a screen to others, sure, you can show it from any application you like. Here, what we're advocating is the use of digital canvas for others to access to. So in order to use Microsoft Office documents on the canvas, our advice is to export them as PDFs and put them to the canvas. And in this form, allow access of others to those documents, because then you don't need any additional software. It's just a document sitting on the canvas of your whiteboard that you can annotate and work on. It's a different type of setting than, let's say, Google Documents or a live session on Microsoft Word, because in such sessions, you have all the participants have access to the document contents. Here we're speaking about access to the canvas, where you can put documents onto the canvas to annotate, highlight, work with, even cut out parts of those documents. So it's more like creative session scenario or brainstorming, where ideas needs to be created on spot while meeting, instead of work needs to be done on, let's say, document or spreadsheet. Is that a good
Bart, if you go, yeah, it makes sense, Bart. If you go to slide 2, I think this will help Leonard see the options as well. So I'm constantly inserting my PowerPoints and PDFs into Explain Everything. And to Bart's point, again, it converts them into images. So they're not documents you'd work on. You still use your Google Docs, your Microsoft Docs for the collaboration. But you'll notice here, actually I'll take control here, Bart, just how we got here, and then we'll walk through the story. But so you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, you see how you have your slide options. So you can have as many slides as you want. So if you want to take a 13-page PDF or PowerPoint and insert it, you'll be able to basically go to your file and drag and drop it. So here's an example. I took a 4-page PDF, and this gives you a bunch of different options if you want to do it vertically or do a grid. So I chose to do a grid here. And so now you have all these, it's now converted it from a PDF to these PNG images on the whiteboard. But yeah, I think this is a good way to kind of think about this. Is Explain Everything is really this engagement layer on the top that allows you to take your static documents, your communication platforms. This is where you would have turn text into visuals, and then really enhance the voice and video. But yeah, getting your media into Explain Everything can be very powerful. And what's nice is anyone that's joined this project, when you leave, I set the settings to where you can actually have a copy of this offline. And so you could have all these to kind of go through and work with, but you're not worried about anyone kind of really stealing your content, because it's not like I can turn this into a PowerPoint or PDF or edit it easily. It's just an image. So from a security standpoint, it's good too, just to get feedback and iterate and collaborate with people. But yeah, definitely take advantage of inserting documents into Explain Everything. And again, I think it's a better way sometimes than just going slide by slide, is you can jump around and keep the conversation very fluid when you just can bring in documents very quickly.
So what is your experience, Reagan, from your practice when you're doing this whiteboarding thing on online sessions? Is it often that users join in to collaborate with you, or is it usual that participants want to just watch you doing those things on a whiteboard and kind of like lead them through the process?
Yeah, I'd say really, again, it's about putting the personal and the virtual, as you guys have here. So when it's say like 1 to 3, a small group, yeah, I always encourage people. I text them the code to join the whiteboard. I think that's why, again, it's kind of critical to understand these platforms as being able to send a message very easily into the WebEx or Zoom or Slack to join. But when it's usually 3, 4 or more, again, the audience is just happy to have a visual to better understand the information. They don't necessarily want to participate. Usually just have 1 or 2 people like we are now. They're in charge of going through the information. But yeah, when it's 1 to 3 people and we're especially whiteboarding, thinking about different ideas, absolutely, this is what really separates Explain Everything from every other whiteboard in the meeting platforms, is the ability to, basically collaborate in a way where you can really transfer understanding and see the other's perspectives. You're not just annotating. You can really draw out and bring in some complex, draw out and visualize complex ideas. So just like I brought that video in to show you guys how I work from the beach, it means something totally different now that I was actually able to show you a video clip in concert with everything else I was doing versus just saying that. So yeah, 1 to 3 people, I think it's an amazing experience. And then 4, 5, 6, you can do it, but it definitely would probably be a design thinking session, workshop session, not a traditional presentation, because it definitely can get chaotic and that might not be the appropriate venue for it.
Sure. It's also, it takes some practice to understand options that are out there in Explain Everything. There's a full tool set on the left side that we don't cover today. And Regan mentioned about possibility to move between slides. And when you participate in such session for the first time, it's best to use those tools to engage with content, or rather browse content, zoom and pan across the canvas. That is the zoom tool that you see here on the bottom, on the left side. That is the slide sorter that you see here on the bottom on the right side. Because actually, in practice, if you look at it, we have currently here 5 people connected to the session. And everyone can watch different piece of the content that Regan provided. So I'm actually on slide number 2, but others might be on slide number 1. That's okay. We all have our distinct viewpoints to the contents. We can, of course, look at one thing, as it usually is during those working sessions where someone is just sharing his screen. But here we have freedom to manipulate the content, move around, and work together. So this is something that it's only possible if you use digital whiteboards. And the advantage of using tablet and mobile solutions such as Explain Everything is the input that we showed you. We can draw across the board using our pens and pencils, having a great pollen rejection functionality that is actually makes it feel like you would be using pen. But here, this is something that is able to cross distance and time, because we can do this collaboratively, not something that you could do on a napkin or a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bart. Yeah, it's just a digital napkin that has infinite amount of space. So if the bottom left-hand corner, where you have that zoom button, if you un-ninja yourself, Bart, or go back to that second slide,
sure.
There was a question we had. So yeah, that ninja again allows you to maintain your perspective, and we're working to make that more and more user-friendly. To be maybe you want your audience to always follow you. So there'll be some really cool updates coming there. But you can see here, Bart allowed it to follow my perspective. So again, I can show you guys right here. This is really where you control the infinite canvas. As you get to use Explain Everything more and more, we have a lot of other capabilities with the pinch and zoom tool that you should play around with. But definitely just start selecting the zoom button. And when I select that, you'll just see the power to be able to bring it out and just have so much on one canvas. So for example, here I have a picture I added at the bottom, and I can completely change the whole perspective of the meeting. And it's like now, boom, we're here. And I'm going to say, okay, everyone, we're going to talk about our big conference. It's in San Diego. Okay, so we're going to be meeting in San Diego. It's June 1st, 2020. It's at the San Diego Conference Center. And we're going to be meeting in our hotel is here at the Hilton. So these are kind of the examples of where, again, just being able to have a visual to guide people through what you're kind of showing. It's just really powerful. So whether it's a blueprint or, a mock-up of a website you're building or an application, just again, the key thing here is just to get the visuals to go along with your story. So we say insert your media, tell your story. And as you use Explain Everything more and more, you'll see the power of our templates and the clip art to save your images, and you'll just find out on the go, you'll be able just to add visuals on the fly, where typically you think, okay, I got to spend an evening and make a PowerPoint, or I got to make a video or ask someone from marketing to do this. A lot of meetings, it just makes sense to be immediate and be just in time to bring that visual right away. So you get to use Explain Everything more and more. We have built a lot into the clip art and templates capabilities to make it easy. So Bart's showing you right now, we have that clip art section right there. It has add the clip art. So now if Bart ever wants to show anyone, hey, where the conference is in San Diego, he has that image saved.
I can just add it like this. And here it is. I can just go to Bart where I saved this photo here, and I can add it whenever I need it.
So that might be an activity for everyone that joined the project. You're going to have these images on Explain Everything now. You can add your clip art. Bart will also show you where it has the name in the top left-hand corner. You can save it as a template too. So if you want this to be a template that you pull up right away, okay, I want to show people why it's important to have a digital whiteboard in a meeting, you would have those files. So the templates and clip arts are very powerful to help you, again, just going to really enhance your workflow. We're not looking to completely change your workflow, just enhance it. And these are powerful capabilities Explain Everything offers.
Now, before you wrap up, I'll just show you where you can find recordings from those webinars where we covered most of the tools of Explain Everything. So if you go to explaineverything.com/webinars, you'll find a list of those webinars where we went through features of Explain Everything, discussing the power of visuals. Sorry, we can make it a bit bigger here. We spoke about new things to come to our digital whiteboard. We spoke about digital surprising ways to use Explain Everything. This is actually a cross-section of whiteboarding with animation, with video recording. Quite interesting because there are things you would never expect that are possible on the canvas of the whiteboard. We covered a lot here. So I encourage you after this session to take a look, watch the videos, and basically take it from there. And if there are any questions that you would want to ask us, please go ahead, put them to the chat window before we close this session, or contact us using our support mail, that is support@explaineverything.com. So I'll just show it here. Yeah.
Yep, and if anyone needs to feedback or wants some help learning how to, basically enhance their virtual meetings, you can just reach me at Reagan Explains on Twitter. So sorry, I'll spell that a little more clear. Reagan Explains. And yeah, I just think this close out the last slide I'll just leave everyone with here. If Bart, you let me zoom in here.
Yeah.
That, I mean, at the end of the day, 75% of communication now is happening. It's not face-to-face anymore, it's virtual. So just really, I think it's time to put some thought into really how you're going to provide the best, most effective way to communicate at a distance. And definitely adding a digital whiteboard to your online meeting platform allows you to really collaborate, engage, and excite people. And that really is honestly fun to use for yourself, and it can be helpful for you to memorize and retain information. Definitely take a look at Explain Everything.
So think about it that way. I mean, we might never meet in person, but still we are able here to work as we were in the same room, using digital content, granted, but it's almost like working with, documents lying before us on the table. So it's not going to replace face-to-face communication at all, but at least it gets us closer and makes possible to understand each other better. And I hope we were able to demonstrate this today. There's one question that I see in the chat coming from Leonard, how to save photo to the clip again, to the clipper again. So let me just demonstrate that quickly. And this time I'm going to use, let's say, this document here. So if you take inspector tool that is just here, let me show you, it's just here. That's the inspector tool, and choose edit. Okay, here's an option on the bottom to add object to the clipboard. So all I need to do is to select object and add it to the clipboard, just like that. So whenever I need this object, let's say I'm browsing different Canvas slide and I just need that document again, I go to this first tool that is add object, insert new object, and within my clipboard, I'll see this document here so I can add it quickly, just like that.
Yep. And then again, if your company probably has a lot of icons, you'll see Bart has a lot of icons there. We can actually preload if you have a Teams enterprise account. We can preload clip art for you already, so you can get started. We have a lot of clip art there ready. The Unsplash 2 access to be able to search the free, royalty-free Unsplash images is also awesome.
Oh yes.
So yeah, I think just figuring out ways to quickly get media into there, and then also. Just taking it when you're collaborating with people, you'll get their content and then you can save it. So it's one of the best features to have Explain Everything is just being able to capture and always have it with you. So you'll start using Explain Everything more and more on your phone because it's so great to have access to those whiteboards with all that rich media and all that narrative and story to reference later. So it's probably one of the best benefits I'll recommend to close out here is just when you use Explain Everything in a digital whiteboard. After I've been doing it for 2 years now. I have every meeting has a digital artifact. Bart can probably show you some amazing ones. And be able to go back and be like, oh yes, that's when we figured out that workflow. That's when we decided this was going to be our story at the convention, or this is how we decided to set up our booth this way. Having that all captured brings back so many memories and makes it more something I can leverage too and reference as I'm doing other projects in the future. So it's great for retention and knowledge management as well.
I think that's a great thing to close the session with. And be authentic. When you're using Explain Everything, it's your way to tell stories. It's your way to describe ideas. Just be authentic. And we hope that you like what we've shared today. We hope that you can put it to practice. If you succeed, let us know. If you'll see that you have some trouble while doing that, also contact us. We're happy to help. Thanks again.
Yep.
Sorry, there's one.
Bart. Oh yeah, there was. Yeah, I saw one question right now just about Microsoft Teams and Whiteboard. So, I'm a huge fan and proponent of Microsoft Teams, just as well as Slack. So again, the whiteboard you'll see, which I think we can do and explain everything, Bart, on it, is just just when it comes to adding in media. So just whether it's the recordings, we didn't even get into this at all, but you can actually record your whole whiteboard and go back and make edits. So it's an animation engine that a lot of teachers and presenters use to be able to record their whiteboards and send videos later. So really it's the recording animation engine and just being able to add in videos and media, where I would say the whiteboards that, whether it's with Microsoft Teams or Zoom's whiteboards, WebEx, they're really more for document annotation. No different than if you would just annotate over a PowerPoint or Keynote. The really simple annotation where this is a complete animation engine to be able to record and really express yourself in this virtual space. So it's quite stark, but I don't want you to think that, the reason we have this visual here that I think is so powerful is that we want you to see that you're going to leverage, you're never going to give up your existing meeting platform. Your company and your IT from a security standpoint put a lot of time to get WebEx, Teams, Zoom deployed and set up. So you're really enhancing it with Explain Everything, which I think Bart, that visual in the red shows is a good way to kind of help everyone understand that, again, Explain Everything is just enhancing and sits on top. And then, using Explain Everything for just 5 or 10 minutes, you'll realize how different it is compared to the other digital whiteboards out there.
If I would have to, that's a great way to put it, but I would have to answer in just one sentence. I would say that because of the versatility of Explain Everything, you can do much more than on other whiteboards. It's just the thing of what you can explain with a picture. Sometimes it's worth 1,000 words, but picture in motion, perhaps tens of thousands. And that's what Explain Everything is for you. As you see, with few taps, I was able to animate this title here. So it scrolls. We can do various things with animation and with engine that is in the Explain Everything. But I encourage you to watch one of the webinars where we actually showcased those amazing possibilities. And again, if I can show you the reference material here where we have the browser, here it is. I'm actually using the browser on the canvas. That's That's the one. Surprising ways to use the digital whiteboards to explain everything. Please, Brian, if you could watch that, you'll immediately see the difference between explain everything and other digital whiteboards out there. So again, thank you for watching. It was a pleasure for us to provide you with this webinar, and we hope to see you again.